So we know that Jesus' reputation as a healer continues to draw enormous crowds. And Mark tells us that he is constantly being pressed by the crowds, that no matter where he goes, a crowd is always there, always asking, always revealing needs, and Jesus responds. And the more he responds, the bigger the crowd gets, right? The bigger the crowd gets, the more needs. Jesus is caught in this cycle of helping and healing others. So it should not be a surprise that when Jesus lands on the other side of the sea, word spreads quickly about him being in the area. And it was word by mouth that was the technology of the day, not text messages or computers. You know, the central marketplace was the area in which the information was shared. And it was busier than usual because people were bringing others to Jesus for healing and wholeness, renewal and restoration. So I got to believe that the people in the crowds wanted to be changed. They wanted to merely touch the clothing of the one who gives hope. Jesus says to the disciples, "Come away to a deserted place all by yourselves and rest for a while." Now, before I get to come away and rest, I want to talk a little bit about what happens when you are not rested, when you don't have good sleep at night, or when you're way too busy at work or life. Now, I read that our busyness seems to preclude time for family meals, in-depth conversation with friends, time just to sit still for a few minutes in silence. We seem to enjoy the hectic pace of our lives, for seldom do I meet someone who is eager to tell me about their downtime. But I do often hear stories of busyness, and our culture supposes that activity and accomplishments are better than rest. We identify ourselves to one another most often by what we do rather than who we are. So the session met with the Homers, and as I introduced them, each of the elders, I caught myself introducing them by what they did. She's a nurse. He's a retired CIA officer. And so I just think it's so true for us to be able to acknowledge that we simply often understand ourselves by what we do, not by who we are. So here's what I want to say to begin with. Too busy leads to not being present. Too busy reduces concentration. Too busy results in a greater opportunity to make mistakes. Not enough rest leads to not being present. Not enough rest leads to reduced concentration, and not enough rest leads to making more mistakes. Now, I found it fascinating that when you look at the Chinese pictograph for the word busy, it is composed of two characters, heart and killing. Busyness, the adoration of being busy, will kill our hearts, wound our relationships, and break the connections that make life blessed. All right, now according to the experts, here's what rest does. It promotes healing of the body and spirit. It reduces stress. It boosts creativity. It improves productivity, and it enhances decision making. There's a lot of truth to the to the term sleep on it, because resting improves decision making. It makes you more effective. In our language, it makes us more faithful. Now, when Jesus says to the apostles, come away to a deserted place all by yourselves and rest for a while, his intention for them is to restore and replenish their bodies and spirits. The disciples need to rest, they need to restore, they need to replenish, for they have life-changing words. They have a message that changes the world. And they have work, healing, and caring that needs to be done. So now I've been thinking about these words, come away to a deserted place, all by yourselves, and rest for a while. So Wayne and I collaborated and changed the words of that Norah Jones song, Come Away. Well, it's mostly Wayne that did it, but he did encourage me not to sing. He said it would not be restorative or replenishing for you. So here is a little bit of the next Grammy-nominated Song of the Year.
Come away to a place where there are no cell phones. Your iPad will not work, but a place where you can rest and be recharged.
Okay, we have a ways to go with it, but we're on to something here. Now, I know that there will be some of you that will want to rest during the remainder of the sermon, and I give you permission to do that. But before you do that, just remember what Jesus says to the apostles. Come away to a deserted place, and just for a while, and I'll give you some rest. Because his intention is to restore and replenish. Now, on Wednesday evening, when I returned home, I did something I can't remember doing for at least the past 25 years. I simply turned off my phone and my emails. And I challenged myself not to turn my phone back on for 24 hours or check my emails until I returned to the office. I even bet myself a nice bottle of wine and a dinner out with Karen if I could do it. And then I made the same bet just in case I couldn't do it. So either way, I'm a winner. And then I read Rabbi Heschel's book, The Sabbath, and I've been tarrying with a couple questions. What does my rest look like with Jesus? What does your rest look like with Jesus? And is my spiritual rest a consistent practice or an irregular in nature? How consistent is my spiritual rest? Sabbath means literally to cease. It's a gift that invites each of us to step away from our overscheduled, busy lives and simply experience rest. It's an invitation to a place apart. That's where Jesus calls the deserted place. The place where one can be restored and replenished. Because we live in this culture of immediate accessibility, constant activity, rapid change, increased stressor, choice and options, and then options and choice, decisions, all needing our attention, resources. There's dead, unreasonable expectations, fatigue, information overload, 24 hours news coverage, fearfulness, cultural conflict. So what I'll suggest is rest, restoration, and replenishment is necessary. It is an intentional choice to be still. There's an old Sabbath prayer that says, "Let me learn to pause, if only for this day. Let me enter into the quiet world this day." Rest, restoration, replenishment is what Jesus intends. And we are offered time for stillness. Now, when we become still, and there's a difference between stillness and laziness. When we enter into the stillness of the day, it allows for the goodness of life to be experienced. So can we point ourselves away from the ceaseless flow and busyness to orient ourselves to what's most important? Can we keep the urgent from constantly trumping what we actually count on as most important? Can we keep the urgent from trumping relationships or managing our everyday routine without letting it trump enjoyment? The rest that Jesus invites us to embody brings us back and teaches us simply to be more fully present in the moment. And I ponder this as, how can we cultivate a sense of rest, restoration, and replenishment? If rest means ceasing from action or motion, it means you stop what we're doing. And when we apply that to God's rest, it means we live in grace. Think about that. Rest means we live in grace. The dictionary also defines rest as being free from worry or what disturbs you. So to rest means you let go of all the hassles, all the things that disturb you, all the worries in your mind and heart. And it means you be at peace with yourselves, others, and God. Being at rest means to be at peace. The dictionary also says rest means to lie down, to be settled. No more flow. Rest initiates restoration. And restoration is to make new again, literally. And when you factor together rest and restoration, the result is replenishment. And that means to be full, to overflow. Now, Jesus was a person who worked to meet many needs of humankind, but he also recognized the need for rest, restoration, and replenishment. And it's important for each of us to find the place where you can rest, where you can be restored and be replenished, where you literally can sit with God. Jesus knows the problem with constantly serving means you're constantly giving. And when you give, it depletes. I think it was Viktor Frankl who said, "What is to give light? What is to give light must endure burning." Jesus says, "Come away and rest." The psalmist says, "Be still and know that I am God." So as we scamper out of here shortly, during this week, make some opportunity to be still. Slow down a bit, but more importantly, be intentional about letting God restore and replenish your coming and your goings. Find the place that helps you remember and experience the God who creates, the God who redeems, and the God who promises to sustain us all each and every day.